Today we have a pretty short meeting. We have about 30 minutes together. What we're going to go ahead and do is we're just going to check in on our group. We're going to do some housekeeping. I'll go over some upcoming dates and just kind of answer any questions anyone's having so far. And then I pulled a few TED Talk videos that I think are super helpful for talking about getting organized. They're specifically picked out for covering the topic around time management. I know during our first meeting when we kind of came together and brainstormed what we were interested in learning about time management was a popular one. And I like these two videos. I'll tell you a little bit more about them when we get there. But I think these are awesome videos because they kind of talk more about the philosophy behind time management and really what it takes to manage your time instead of, a list of tips and tricks that we hear on repeat and can be, we all know sometimes different tips and tricks, but it's kind of about flipping that philosophy. And then we'll go into small groups and kind of talk together about what you thought about the videos. So just as a quick update, if you have any questions about the group, you can always find the answers for what's upcoming on the webpage for our group. I've sent that out via email. If you haven't been getting my emails, please let me know. You could potentially not be on that email list. And then again, with that, any information is going to be up on this webpage. It's just, the whole the first 90 getting organized group. And then we have our Microsoft Teams group, which I just recently chatted in this afternoon. So you might have seen my message in there. All are welcome to join that. And there's a link on that webpage to join if you have not already. Upcoming, we have the second class in our Think Smarter, Not Harder series. The first one, that recording, you can find on the webpage. You can find the slides, the workbook as well. And the second one is going to be next Wednesday, February 10. And then upcoming, we have officially the 2 dates now for our 2 sessions with the organizing experts. Cami Leesenby runs Organizing Experts. She has created and trademarked the Impact Organizing Method. So she'll be doing 2 sessions for us, one on just kind of organizing in 2021 and coming out of this crazy year we've all had. Most of us are at home. Our lifestyles have changed a little bit. So looking at kind of bringing organization into that space, the space we're living in now. And then also one for creating kind of the best home office. These are going to be a lot shorter sessions. They actually might not end up taking that full hour. Cami will do a brief presentation and it'll be mostly time for questions. So that's a good session to come to if you're really just wanting to pick the brain of an expert organizer. She's got a ton of experience in this field. She's been on Oprah and featured on a lot of different national news syndicates. Okay, and then in the works, we're still figuring out the dates on these. I would look to March for these since we're kind of already into February, but we will be bringing in David Levy for mindful technology, bullet journaling, tricks of the trade, bringing in Laura Presley from UW Libraries, talking about time and task management, as we will a little bit today. And then finding your focus is a workshop. We're still nailing down the date, but we're going to bring in Josina for that from UW Professional and Organizational Development. So stay tuned for those dates again. They'll be on the webpage and you'll get it in your email. So today, one of the first videos I wanted us to watch is by Laura Vanderkam. It's called How to Gain Control of Your Free Time. Many people have said that this is one of the most important TED Talks to watch on time management, just from scouring different web pages and different experts in the field. So I'm excited for you guys to see it and see what you think. Just real quick, I'm going to go ahead and pause my share and just make sure I optimize sound. I'd hate to share that with you guys without optimizing for video share. All right.
When people find out I write about time management, they assume 2 things. One is that I'm always on time, and I'm not. I have 4 small children, and I would like to blame them for my occasional tardiness, but sometimes it's just not their fault. I was once late to my own speech on time management. We all had to just take a moment together and savor that irony. The second thing they assume is that I have lots of tips and tricks for saving bits of time here and there. And sometimes I'll hear from magazines that are doing a story along these lines, generally on how to help their readers find an extra hour in the day. And the idea is that we'll shave bits of time off everyday activities, add it up, and we'll have time for the good stuff. And I question the entire premise of this piece, but I'm always interested in hearing what they've come up with before they call me. So some of my favorites: doing errands in a way where you only have to make right-hand turns, being extremely judicious in microwave usage, so it says 3 to 3.5 minutes on the package. We are totally getting in on the bottom side of that. And my personal favorite, which makes sense on some level, is to DVR your favorite shows so you can fast forward through the commercials. And that way you save about 8 minutes every half hour. So in the course of 2 hours of watching TV, you find 32 minutes to exercise. Which is true. You know another way to find 32 minutes to exercise? Don't watch 2 hours of TV a day, right? Anyway, the idea is we'll save bits of time here and there, add it up, we will finally get to everything we want to do. But after studying how successful people spend their time and looking at their schedules hour by hour, I think this idea has it completely backward. We don't build the lives we want by saving time. We build the lives we want, and then time saves itself. Here's what I mean. I recently did a time diary project looking at 1,001 days in the lives of extremely busy women. They had demanding jobs, sometimes their own businesses, kids to care for, maybe parents to care for, community commitments. Busy, busy people. I had them keep track of their time for a week so I could add up how much they worked and slept, and I interviewed them about their strategies for my book. One of the women whose time log I studied, she goes out for a Wednesday night for something. She comes home to find that her water heater has broken, and there is now water all over her basement. If you've ever had anything like this happen to you, you know it is a hugely damaging, frightening, sopping mess. So she's dealing with the immediate aftermath that night. Next day, she's got plumbers coming in. Day after that, professional cleaning crew dealing with the ruined carpet. All this is being recorded on her time log. Winds up taking 7 hours of her week. 7 hours. That's like finding an extra hour in the day. But I'm sure if you had asked her at the start of the week, could you find 7 hours to train for a triathlon? Could you find 7 hours to mentor 7 worthy people? I'm sure she would have said what most of us would have said, which is no. Can't you see how busy I am? Yet when she had to find 7 hours because there is water all over her basement, she found 7 hours. And what this shows us is that time is highly elastic. We cannot make more time, but time will stretch to accommodate what we choose to put into it. And so the key to time management is treating our priorities as the equivalent of that broken water heater. And to get at this, I like to use some language from one of the busiest people I ever interviewed. By busy, I mean she was running a small business with 12 people on the payroll. She had 6 children in her spare time. I was getting in touch with her to set up an interview on how she had it all, that phrase. I remember it was a Thursday morning, and she was not available to speak with me, of course, right? But the reason she was unavailable to speak with me is that she was out for a hike, because it was a beautiful spring morning, and she wanted to go for a hike. So, of course, this makes me even more intrigued, and when I finally do catch up with her, she explains it like this. She says, "Listen, Laura, everything I do, every minute I spend is my choice. And rather than say, I don't have time to do X, Y, or Z, she'd say, I don't do X, Y, or Z because it's not a priority. I don't have time often means it's not a priority." If you think about it, that's really more accurate language. I mean, I could tell you I don't have time to dust my blinds, but that's not true. If you offered to pay me $100,000 to go dust my blinds, I would get to it pretty quickly. Since that is not going to happen, I can acknowledge this is not a matter of lacking time. It's that I don't want to do it. Using this language reminds us that time is a choice. And granted, there may be horrible consequences for making different choices. I will give you that. But we are smart people, and certainly over the long run, we have the power to fill our lives with the things that deserve to be there. So how do we do that? How do we treat our priorities as the equivalent of that broken water heater? Well, first we need to figure out what they are. And I want to give you 2 strategies for thinking about this. The first, on the professional side. I'm sure many people coming up to the end of the year are giving or getting annual performance reviews. You look back over your successes over the year, your opportunities for growth. And this serves its purpose But I find it's more effective to do this looking forward. So I want you to pretend it's the end of next year. You're giving yourself a performance review, and it has been an absolutely amazing year for you professionally. What 3 to 5 things did you do that made it so amazing? So you can write next year's performance review now. And you can do this for your personal life too. I'm sure many of you, like me, come December, get cards that contain these folded up sheets of colored paper, on which is written what is known as the family holiday letter. Bit of a wretched genre of literature, really, going on about how amazing everyone in the household is, or even more scintillating, how busy everyone in the household is. But these letters serve a purpose, which is that they tell your friends and family what you did in your personal life that mattered to you over the course of the year. So this year's kind of done, but I want you to pretend it's the end of next year. And it has been an absolutely amazing year for you and the people you care about. What 3 to 5 things did you do that made it so amazing? So you can write next year's family holiday letter now. Don't send it. Please, don't send it. But you can write it. And now between the performance review and the family holiday letter, we have a list of 6 to 10 goals we can work on in the next year. And now we need to break these down into doable steps. So maybe you want to write a family history. Well, first you can read some other family histories, get a sense for the style. And then maybe think about the questions you want to ask your relatives, set up appointments to interview them. Or maybe you want to run a 5K. So you need to find a race and sign up and figure out a training plan and dig those shoes out of the back of the closet. And then, this is key, we treat our priorities as the equivalent of that broken water heater by putting them into our schedules first. And we do this by thinking through our weeks before we are in them. I find a really good time to do this is Friday afternoons. Friday afternoon is what an economist might call a low opportunity cost time. Most of us are not sitting there on Friday afternoon saying, I am excited to make progress toward my personal and professional priorities right now. But we are willing to think about what those should be. So take a little bit of time Friday afternoon, make yourself a 3-category priority list: career, relationships, self. Making a 3-category list reminds us that there should be something in all 3 categories. Career we think about, relationships, self, not so much. But anyway, just a short list, 2 to 3 items in each. Then look out over the whole of the next week and see where you can plan them in. Where you plan them in is up to you. And I know this is going to be more complicated for some people than others. I mean, some people's lives are just harder than others. It is not going to be easy to find time to take that poetry class if you are caring for multiple children on your own. I get that. And I don't want to minimize anyone's struggle. But I do think that the numbers I am about to tell you are empowering. There are 168 hours in a week. 24 times 7 is 168 hours. That is a lot of time. If you are working a full-time job, so 40 hours a week, sleeping 8 hours a night, so 56 hours a week, that leaves 72 hours for other things. That is a lot of time. You say you're working 50 hours a week, maybe a main job and a side hustle. Well, that leaves 62 hours for other things. You say you're working 60 hours. Well, that leaves 52 hours for other things. You say you're working more than 60 hours. Well, are you sure? There was once a study comparing people's estimated work weeks with time diaries, found that people claiming 75-plus hour work weeks were off by about 25 hours. You can guess in which direction, right? Anyway, in 168 hours a week, I think we can find time for what matters to you. If you want to spend more time with your kids, you want to study more for a test you're taking, you want to exercise for 3 hours and volunteer for 2, you can. And that's even if you're working way more than full-time hours. So we have plenty of time, which is great, because guess what? We don't even need that much time to do amazing things. But when most of us have bits of time, what do? Pull out the phone, right? Start deleting emails, or otherwise we're puttering around the house or watching TV. But small moments can have great power. You can use your bits of time for bits of joy. Maybe it's choosing to read something wonderful on the bus on the way to work. I know when I had a job that required 2 bus rides and a subway ride every morning, I used to go to the library on weekends to get stuff to read. Made the whole experience almost enjoyable. Breaks at work can be used for meditating or praying. If family dinner is out because of your crazy work schedule, maybe family breakfast could be a good substitute. It's about looking at the whole of one's time and seeing where the good stuff can go. I truly believe this. There is time. Even if we are busy, we have time for what matters. And when we focus on what matters, we can build the lives we want in the time we've got. Thank you.
All right. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now, this is stop. So I'm going to put us into breakout rooms here to go ahead and share your name, your connection to UW. I know we have a mix of students and employees. And, just really what stood out to you in Laura's talk? What did you think? Have you taken anything away? Did you have an aha moment? Let's just get to know each other a little bit. We'll spend about 3 or 4 minutes in there. I have a second video that I'd love to get to. And, we might go a little over 2:30 for those who can stay. But either way, I'll get you the link to both videos. So I'm going to go ahead and create these breakout rooms and open all rooms. You guys should be getting your invites. I'll send these questions in the chat as well. All right, so I'd love to hear, would anyone like to share? Oh, we still have people coming back, looks like. Okay, and we're all back. Would anyone like to share just what you and your group talked about? Welcome to raise your hand or just unmute. We don't have too many people here.
I thought just in general, everyone seemed to be, when you look at that 168 hours a week, that was impactful. It made a big impact. So I think just starting there was a good.
Yeah, absolutely. It's eye-opening.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. Anyone else? Big takeaways, aha moments?
Yeah, one of my group members shared, I think Paulina, talking about it's really great to focus on the time, but also your energy and what times of the day you have the most energy. Because, like for me personally, I stopped trying to do anything work related after like 10 p.m. As a student and as an employee. So just because I know I'm not as productive at like 11 p.m. or midnight. So just trying to allocate time and thinking about energy is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing. I think it was especially for me, one of my big takeaways was, if you're not making time for it, it might not be a priority because I feel like there's so many things I want to do. And then I realized, well, maybe I don't really want to do that. Maybe society is telling me I should be doing that. So I think that's to a certain degree, a lot of us are still kind of figuring out that piece. I know we only have about 5 minutes left, but I thought these 2 videos went really well together. So I'm going to go ahead and play it. If people can stick around, you're welcome to. Again, you'll get the slides for this, and you can find this video on your own if you have to jump off and you're enjoying it. So I'm going to go ahead and share this one as well.
When I was 6 years old, my biggest fear was to get bored. I used to make to-do lists every single day, so I'd always have something to do. But one day I was watching this documentary on sea turtles, and it said that sea turtles can live up to 150 years of age. And I realized, as a 6-year-old kid, that I'm probably not going to live that long. I'm going to die. It was such a strange realization. Don't you feel weird sometimes when you realize that no matter what you do in life, you're still going to die in the end? So I ran to my mother and asked her, "Mom, is it true that we're all going to die someday? You, me, Dad, my friends?" And she said, "Yes, we're all going to die. There's nothing you can do about that." And I was horrified. I started to cry, and I cried so hard because of what death meant. It literally means the end of existence, the end of everything. And I wondered, what's the point of all this? So I turned to my mom, still crying, and said, so why do we work? Why do I have to work? Why does Dad have to work so much if he and everybody else are going to die anyway? She never answered my question. But that question stuck with me. I ask myself a lot of questions, and I'm sure you do too. That's what philosophy is all about, asking questions. And what could be more important than asking questions about how to use your time? Probably nothing, because time is all we have. So naturally, you would expect the whole time management movement to be very philosophical. After all, time management is a concept that started out in philosophy. The ancient philosophers were obsessed with this one very important question. How can we use our time in a way that makes our lives meaningful? But modern time management is philosophically empty. Time management books are written by consultants, not philosophers. It's always about tips and tricks and techniques to get more things done, to do things faster, to be more productive, more efficient, and to work better. Time management has become philosophically empty. Time management has moved away from its philosophical roots. But if we really want to live a meaningful life, we have to once again reinfuse time management with philosophy. And philosophy starts with questions. Here's a very simple question. Why do we need to manage time? Some people might say it's because time is precious, very precious, so we need to manage it. But how precious is time exactly? See, whenever I introduce myself to people as a time management researcher, the first thing people say is, oh yeah, time management, that's really important because time is money. Time is money. Every time I hear time is money, it reminds me of this conversation I had over coffee with this acquaintance of mine. He was a contractor. As we were talking, he looked slightly annoyed and impatient. So I asked him, Jeff, what's going on, man? Everything all right? And he said, it's just that I hate wasting my time. It makes me so angry. So I asked him, what do you mean? And he said, look, I make $160 an hour. That means every hour I spend with you, I'm losing $160. I was slightly offended, to be honest. But it's what he said next that really shocked me. He said, whenever I'm spending time with my own kids, it makes me so angry because, yeah, I'm spending time with them, but every hour I spend with my kids, I'm not making $160. And this is not just an anecdote. You can see this everywhere. Experiments show that whenever people start to think of time as money, they become more agitated, less happy, always in a rush. And importantly, they get greedy. They become less likely to help people out, to volunteer, or to think about the environment. Because nothing else matters when you're making $160 an hour. The real question is money the real value of time? The Roman philosopher Seneca said that if we think of time as money, we're actually valuing our time very cheaply. We value our time very cheaply because we think we have a lot of it, because we think we're going to live forever. But we're not going to live forever. We're going to die. And the moment you realize, and I mean fully realize, that you're going to die, $160 an hour won't mean much. Time is not money anymore. Now, some people might say that thinking about death is not exactly cheerful. Maybe. But it's very helpful. The French philosopher Albert Camus said that the most fundamental question in philosophy is, why shouldn't I kill myself right now? It's true. Why shouldn't you kill yourself right now? Your answer to that question will remind you of what you're truly living for. Your answer to that question will remind you of the true value of your time. Because time is not money when you know you're going to die. And this is how philosophy helps with time management. It helps us ask meaningful questions about time. Here's another seemingly simple question. Can you manage time? Back in college, I had this professor who used to tell me that you can't manage time. Time management is bullshit. You can't manage time because there's too many things to do, too much work to do, too many obligations. You can't manage time. She used to publicly brag about how she never sees her daughter because she never has time. People admired her because she was so productive. But what people didn't know was that her work obligations also made her depressed. They cost her a marriage. And of course, she never really got to know her daughter. But what truly pains me is that things could have been otherwise. She could have been alive today and see her daughter grow up. But she didn't believe that time could be managed, so she never tried. Whenever I used to drop by her office, she would tell me, "Sorry, kiddo, I don't have time." But that was a lie. "I don't have time" is the biggest lie in the history of mankind. You know who really didn't have time? Your great-grandparents. Those guys had no time at all. They had to work 12 hours a day every single day. And it's not just work. Everything back then was more time-consuming. People didn't have washing machines, so they had to wash everything by hand. They didn't have frozen meals, so they had to cook everything from scratch. And all those things took hours to do back in the days. That's why our great-grandparents really didn't have time. But here's the incredible thing. Our great-grandparents did not complain about not having time. We do. It's a paradox. We have more time than they did, and yet we still complain that we don't have time. Why? Because we have more options. More freedom to choose our time options as we please. Look at how we live today. We can shop on Amazon 24/7, any day of the year. Women can delay pregnancy by freezing their eggs. More and more companies offer flexible work schedules. We can watch our favorite shows anytime we want on Netflix. So not only do we have more time, but we also have a lot more flexibility. A lot more. A lot more freedom to use our time as we please. And we still say that we don't have time. Why? The philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre said that we have this tendency to trick ourselves into thinking we're not free. Because being free to use your time as you please means that you have to make a choice and live with the consequences of that choice. That means whatever you do with your time, it's on you. And that's the scary part. It's scary because what if we made the wrong choices? What if we're missing out? It's this constant fear of missing out. Would your life have been better had you spent more time with your kids? Or more time studying? Or more time partying? Maybe we don't want to know. That's why we say we don't have time. It gives us an excuse. It's reassuring. But in reality, we do have time. And time can be managed. It's just that we don't have a lot of it. So there have to be sacrifices. We can't have it all. When it comes to time, we can either make sacrifices or make excuses. But only one of them will allow you to live meaningfully. We live in an era of unprecedented flexibility, where we can actually afford to work less and do more meaningful things with our time, so why don't we? And by we, I really mean us. You, me, and everybody else in this city. Because time management is not just about you. It's about all of us. It's about all of us as a society. The way you manage your time has huge consequences for our world. What do people say when they don't vote? I didn't have time. What do people say when they don't read? I don't have time. Why don't people relax, go to the museum, or volunteer? I don't have time. But this wouldn't be the case if we thought about time management the way philosophers do, by asking questions, the right questions, instead of focusing on tips, tricks, and shortcuts. So what kind of questions can we ask ourselves? Well, is it reasonable to let your boss call you on weekends? Is it worth it? Is it worth your time? And by time, I really mean life, not money. Because you're not paying your bosses with some commodity. You're paying them with your time. You're paying them with your life. And if that's not precious, I don't know what is. Next time you tell a friend you don't have time to hang out, ask yourself if you actually have better things to do, or if you're just making excuses. Because there's a growing sense of isolation in Western societies. People feel alone, partly because people feel they don't have time to hang out anymore. But we do have time. So please share it with the people you care about if you can. And remember, if you want to manage your time meaningfully, embrace philosophy and never stop asking questions. Thank you.
All right. Well, we are about 10 minutes over, so I'm going to go ahead and just leave that as food for thought. We've got about 15 people left. Like I said, I think those are just some good videos that go well together, especially when you're thinking about time management and bringing more organization into your lifestyle. Obviously, there's many tips and tricks to managing your time, especially if we're talking about work time management. But at the end of the day, I think there's some more existential questions to be asking ourselves about time management, and really making time for the things you value and that matter to you. I hope you guys all have a great rest of your afternoon. This recording will be added to the webpage, and we'll see you ongoing for other content, workshops, and classes. All right, you guys, have a great afternoon.